Here we are then. We're live. What's up? Hey, no one's watching this right now, so it's whoever's listening to this now and whoever will uh for tuning in. Subscribe to my channel. Maybe then we'll get past the YouTube firewall algorithm that no matter what you can put any video on, I bet right now, and there's no way that you're gonna get even noticed until you pay them to get past their advertisements. Oh, hey, what's up, JH? How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. I don't really know how long I'm going to be doing this today, but here I am. Hey, what's up, Fitted Lopez? How's it going, man? Yeah, so I was just thinking about talking about the uh, the whole idea of integration with self, like what that could actually mean as far as the practical use. That's kind of stuff I was thinking about talking about. There's a lot of political conversations and stuff like that going on in a lot of different arenas and chat rooms. I've noticed. If you guys want to talk about something like that, I guess that's cool. But I don't even follow any of that stuff. It's hard not to pick some of it up because it it's pumped through so many different avenues that you can't miss some of it. Like the Pelosi ripping the paper thing and Trump getting impeached and acquitted. You catch some things no matter what. But I don't particularly really participate in modern society so much as I just kind of maintain my own little world. I think that I think it takes a very grand being to be able to maintain a really happy center and be spread out everywhere. At least it was for me. And there's life's really boring if you make it so or allow it so or put it so. Or it can be really exciting and fun. It's that whole life is what you make it thing. But there's one reason why we came here is so that we're alive, to say the least. And in living, there's a drama to it that's going to naturally occur. That's what the whole chop wood, carry water thing is about. There's a certain amount of effort that it takes to maintain your warmth. There's a certain amount of effort that it takes to maintain your lifestyle. You can find a really good nook where you can kind of sit somewhere and you got like a great waterfall and there's lots of trout and salmon that swim up the river and raspberries and a bunch of stuff that just kind of grows right there, and you can kind of live right there. These places do exist. In India, there's these various babas that you can find that live in caves, and they got just kind of a perfect little place that they can sit where the tree fruits, and then when it's done fruiting, the vegetables start blooming, and they got kind of their own little nook. But if you don't have one of these little places, you're going to have to participate in society to a certain degree to produce money so that you can eat. Because the streams are so polluted, you can't just go and fish for yourself. You can't live off the land. You literally can't, because there isn't enough life forms like there was in the past in various areas where you could actually live off the land. You can't do that. It's been utilized and farmed and plundered to the point where you can't really find very many of those places anymore. So in order to live, you have to live in this system that we're creating, this modern system of money and machines, refrigeration, penicillin, YouTube. There's really cool things. There's really great things about it. It's giving us a chance to become more integrated as a species, more interconnected as a being than ever before, that we know of, at least. And so what are we going to do with that? There really is something this is an opportunity. This is a way to keep yourself geared towards desiring to live, because what can happen is you can get to this point where you get apathetic towards life. There's a lot of people, you know, and so they do things to keep themselves becoming apathetic. And how you do that is you maintain a discipline, maintain a goal. You know, you fly to the moon or you fly to Mars, you write a book, you work out, you get pets. I think pets are a really good thing. They can monitor you. You can really use them to monitor yourself in a lot of different ways, because if you really pay attention to pets, they'll reflect back to you a lot of your personality traits that you might not really know that you have, but they'll show you things if you really listen to your pets. Um, I've had cats. I have cats. Actually, I'm forced to live with two mini cougars. Wherever they are, they might fly into the camera. Whoever knows, if you have cats, you know what I'm saying. They can come out of nowhere. I have a Bengal. It was actually a wild cat that my neighbor brought over to me, and now like he's busted. I kept him in the garage, and then he forced his way in the house. I'm not even joking. He forced his way in the house, and so now he's an indoor cat. And yeah, Bengal cats don't just go out and get a Bengal. If you've ever had like one or two cats, you might be ready for a Bengal. If you've never had a cat, I don't think you're ready to get just like a Bengal or Savannah cat. They're not normal cats. They're louder. They scratch, like their scratching abilities are more. Anyways, animals, dude, you gotta be ready to take care of them things. So you have to maintain them. There's a discipline involved, and it gives you something to look forward to. Gives you a life. So that's the kind of something to maintain a good sense of personality as well. But it takes money. We have to participate in this system. And in doing so, in participating in the system, you can become mentally ill. There are elements in this system, and one where I think everybody can really see where the rubber meets the road on this is commercials. Commercials are literally designed to make you feel like you don't have enough, or you're going to get more. You know, crack open this beer and all kinds of hot chicks are going to come out and want to be near you. Everything's better when you drink our Pepsi or whatever our product is. When you consume it, you're going to be happier. You know, so the whole idea behind commercials is to make you feel like you have less. And so, dealing with a lot of personality disorders, you'll notice that a lot of them actually stem from a lack of self-confidence. And if you dig deeper down into it, you can see that this lack of self-confidence is going to actually come from a social drive. You know, they might have had an experience with their self where they failed in obtaining X, and then through their social structures that they had around them that was supported, and then they start to believe these different systems about themselves, and then it becomes a compounded personality trait that they live upon and project into other people. They'll get on chat lines or whatever, and they'll try to say things to break you down and make you feel like you're less, make you feel like you're not good enough in some way. And this is a malady. And I think that these maladaptive traits, you know, this negative things that people do, that I think a lot of them actually stem from economic drives. I actually have an overriding cultural theory about economic drives and how the economic system of a culture tends to drive a lot of the social infrastructure. If you've ever lived with a society that is outside of monetary, that's like a tribal society, hunter-gatherer society, you can find them in Africa. You can find them in a lot of different areas, usually off-grid type of areas. You got to travel to find these types of people, but they have a very different social structure. And it's really only something you can experience, but you can put words to it. and people uh, find a lot of valuation through their monetary accumulation. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we see the social stratification that we see a lot of times in the Western society. Okay, so like one of the big things I'm really pointing at here is that a man in Western society is judged by what he has. Like, you watch this video and you look in here and you're like, okay, look at this guy. He's got a heat vent installed. Notice the heat vent that I have installed. I had to have that installed due to the excess heat accumulated in my body, aka going bald. Some people might call it. I don't know, but so there's judgment. I got this clothes. You see, I have headphones on behind me. You can tell that I'm in a smaller room in a larger house area. There's a lot of judgments that you can make. And so you put on your social face. Okay, I have X amount of money. People are going to have certain amounts of understandings based on how much money that I wish them to perceive me to have. So then you paint this image on your face. Okay, I'm going to be this type of person. And you go out and one of the epitomes of one of the higher levels of the example is going to be somebody like a movie star or a politician. And these people, they have to put on the Brad Pitt picture that their star, that all of their little customers support them based on their image of Brad Pitt on the movie big screen of whatever it is they've seen. And who is the real Brad Pitt? Only that dude knows it. Is that even his real name? Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow that stuff. But you get the idea. So I was looking for a picture of him, but this guy, he lives in Jamaica, and I was hanging out with him last summer, and he's total off-grid Rasta man, and he doesn't even really see any kind of modern stuff ever. And I was talking to him about the weather, and he said some really creepy things about the weather. Kind of scared me. He didn't even know anything was going on about Antarctica. He doesn't know anything. Okay, all this guy knows is how to live in the mountains, in the Blue Mountains in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't even see electricity hardly ever. He's aware of it, but he has no material image. He never even probably hardly ever looks in a mirror. Anyways, I was talking to him about a lot of different things that he observes on the island. And one thing he notices on the island is that when he was a child, people were different. And he talked about how society has inundated Jamaica and how it's made it so that everybody has a car and everybody thinks they need to be participating with all this money and blah, blah, blah. He just went on about the whole money system and how he sees it makes people sick in the head. He's like, one day they care about banana, and the next day they come and all they want is to throw a banana. And he says they get sick. He thinks that the rolling on tires. This was funny. He said he thinks that when people roll on tires, it jumbles their brains. That's what he told me. And there might be some truth to that. I don't know. The human brain, it can get jumbled about and cause various, even going like this kind of jumbles your brain about. So maybe there's a little something to that, but I don't know. I think that maybe more like just watching commercials on a consistent level from a very young age on, especially in like personality development stages of your life, where you're telling you need all these various products, you need to look like this. There's all the subliminal messaging that goes on as well. Uh, yeah, good one, Being good one. Food, shelter, clothing is considered wealth. Now it's money. It almost brings a tear to my eyes. Like when and read that and the truth of that, and like that is so true. We watched this movie Avatar, and in the movie Avatar, remember what she said? She says, "We want to kill your sickness." She's all, and he was like, "What are you even talking about?" You can kind of tell he's like sick. What are you talking about? What are you bamboo carrying people are talking about? He didn't know. And then he got connected to the force, and he got connected to himself, and he started realizing he was actually connected and part of this whole thing, and that it wanted to love him, and he could actually learn more, and that by learning more he felt more, and by feeling more he was, the whole thing. How it works up into itself. There's a feedback loop involved here. It's really awesome. The self integration process is amazing. It's one of the greatest processes of life, I think. That uh, another reason why I'm here and speaking out about these things, because I think that thwarts the process. I think these commercials, and I think this entire genre of understanding gets in between you and you. It creates this other little image of you that you kind of like carry around with you, you know? And then like that image tries to become, like coats over you, and then rah, and then all of a sudden you have to put it on this Brad Pitt face every day, and you get in the mirror and you got to paint on your Brad Pitt face every day. Good one. The foundation of America is based in the pursuit of exterior happiness. We have to change that. We have to change that. Okay, so here's why it's America that has to change that. What we've seen is that America has a world domination. Right now, America's definitely dominated the world in one very strong aspect. And it's one of the more difficult, actually, to conquer the world in. And that's social. Like, America's won the world in the social game. Like, look, everywhere you look, it's Bollywood. They call it, like, took Hollywood and it's like, oh, we wanted Bollywood. All right, that shows you how inundated America is in the entire social process of everything now. I mean, it's Pepsi's everywhere. McDonald's has got the world by its hand. you know so if we're going to change the world, it's going to be through the American culture. It really do. I mean, it's kind of like, man, I don't like saying that because there's a lot of things that's not cool about that. But at least the fact that we have a handle on the world now, we have a social grip on the world. And so if we can work that in, we, as in the whole collective of spiritual, psychological, neurologically healthy minded individuals, if we can work together in inundating culture with the idea of becoming this totality of self, as defined by the future us, because right now we have such a limited understanding of the quantum reality, quantum physics, that we don't really have a full picture yet that we can all fully believe on. But it's forming. It's more forming now than it was in the 80s. It's quantifiable. I have noticed that when I used to talk to people, because I've always been on this kick, but when I used to talk to people in the 80s, they really looked at me like I was crazy. Like, I think sometimes I'd be talking to people and it's like I would kind of and it just turn like foam. They wouldn't even notice me. Almost like I would just kind of phase out of their reality sometimes. But I've noticed that those same types of people, then the seeds were planted, I guess, or something, and here we are now. We're getting to where we can actually communicate these ideas across various cultures and across various nations, and we're kind of coming to an idea where we can find some sort of idea in common ground. So what that means is that we have an opportunity that we should seize, because technology, and I don't just mean the metal technology, I mean the technology, like our bodies and our minds, technology as in the entire philosophy of technology, it's come to a point now where we have the ability to rot life from this planet. We can kill the planet. So it's an imperative at this time that everybody realizes that you cannot separate your body from the homeostasis system. Okay. And the homeostasis system is not just the planet. Our planet has dependencies with Jupiter. Okay. If Jupiter got too jacked up, our planet would get jacked up. That's how interdependent our entire homeostasis system is with so many different things. That's why I think that core fact is one reason why astrology is so embedded and has been, is I think that they knew that way back in the ancient times, that we are tied on some sort of level. They could perceive it, and it's bled out now. We have scientific findings and a lot of various case discoveries and whatnot that's come about. So we're getting a clearer picture that we findings and a lot of various case discoveries and whatnot that's come about. So we're getting a clearer picture that we can. There's no way to pass it down to my daughter. There's no way to pass it down to you. What I'm even trying to understand, if we don't have some sort of basis for up and down and all around. So we have a language, we can formulate it, we can get to this point, and now we have a culture that's inundated the world that can facilitate this message getting across, that human beings are tied to their homeostasis system. Okay, that's just one level. There's a lot of different fields that I can show where human beings are tied to so many different things. We're just going to stick with the idea of biology right now, is that you can't eat without the food, and that can't be without the oxygen, and that can't be blah, blah, blah. It goes and goes and goes. And it's the stars and the sun and the moon, everything's tied. We all know this. And if we put a big kink in the system, it's going to throw it off to the point where we're either going to have to adapt. It doesn't mean that we're going to end, but this game that we're playing right now, where you can just walk around on the surface of the planet, and you can pop over here on this island and then jump over there and sail across the ocean, and then breathe the air and have the water splashing upon your face. And it's okay. It's not burning your eyes or something. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to any of these big, like, dude, if you ever go to Goa, India, it's so dirty. Oh my gosh. Goa is so dirty. Africa is so dirty, dude. Jamaica is so dirty. Mexico, dirty, dirty, dirty. It's just, like, I can't. So many of these countries are so horribly dirty, you can't hardly breathe in them. It's horrific, especially the larger third world countries. Delhi, Mumbai, Johannesburg. Oh boy, Johannesburg's actually gotten a little bit better last time. Cairo is just horrid. Even in like France, in Berlin, in Frankfurt, there's so, like, these larger cities, even in Illinois, you get into Chicago. Oh, yuck. It's yuck. Okay. So how long do we think we can pump all this stuff out before something happens? It's silly. We gotta be part of our system. And, the more we separate ourselves from our system, the more separated we'll be from each other, and the more separated we'll be from the world. And, hold on, guys. I'm gonna read the chat. There's a lot of different words. I see a lot of stuff going on here. Yeah, you can't change the world waiting to change it. You got to get out there. Yes, I thanks you guys for saying this stuff. It's like, it's so easy to get bogged down. I was like, for the moment, I was like, oh, maybe I should check the news or something. I looked on, it was just depressing. I looked at news stuff for, like, news feed stuff. I don't know, for, I think, maybe 15 minutes. And then I said, nope, get out of here. And then I had to go to Tibetan Bulls. And then I had to, I was like, I sat there And I was just, man, even thinking about it, I just kind of have to recenter myself. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay. Hey, yeah, society, I'm a weak minded person. Getting around that stuff, it affects me. It makes me feel off balance, makes me feel like angry sometimes. And then other times I'll be afraid, like, oh my gosh, I better go buy all the milk. The coronavirus is going to sneak in and get everybody. And that's exactly what they want us to feel, man. Nope. No. I think it's all a ruse. I think it's all a ruse. I'm not saying go out and roll in coronavirus spores and run around naked or something. That's not what I'm saying. Let's always stay in balance. Always stay on that middle ground. But I think that by staying in the middle ground, we're going to realize that, hey, maybe this scare tactic stuff, it's just a scare tactic stuff, and look around us and say, hey, nothing's happening right here. All my friends and all my family and everybody I know is safe. I haven't heard nothing about nothing. Everything's fine. So why go out and buy all the milk or something? But that's what they want you to do. I'm going to read some more. They're trying to maintain the Brad Pitt. That's they're trying to maintain the Brad Pitt face. Let's try to make that. I think Brad would like that. He's like, yeah, let's make that a term. The Brad Pitt, kind of like a poker face, but maybe a little bit more politically correct, because you're getting the wrong arena. Excuse me, my English hurt right there. You get in the wrong arena, and if you say poker, oh, what did you say? I went and I read a bunch of the stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff that you can read, disclaimers and tips and advisos, blah blah blah. And the political correctness filter seemed like it was pretty high. The first 2 live feeds I did, there was one person that watched the entire thing that didn't say anything. and then they didn't, and then they weren't there anymore. So I thought that was odd. I think that what that was is, I think that they have like somebody that watches first time feeders to make sure that they're not showing body parts or something, or who knows what. There's sick minded people out there that will do all kinds of sick stuff. And that it's like, we want to give the government certain rights because there are sick people out there doing stuff. If you have a daughter, any man that has a daughter, automatically you go into this like crazy defense, mama bear, surveillance vigilance. You kind of like, when you have a daughter, you think of things differently. If you're going to be a father and you have a daughter, if you're not, then you don't care. But when you do, all of a sudden you start realizing all the different people that are out there, and you start really thinking about all the things that you did when you were a teenager, and like, man, all of a sudden it's a new world. So there's where do we find this middle ground? And how do you, once you find that middle ground, okay, you get your first committee that's going to be in charge of like what's politically correct or what's sociably correct. And so how do you pass the committee on? How did they decide who's going to come next? There's a lot of tribulations for us to get to this next stage. And what I mean by next stage is, I'm kind of piggybacking on something that a lot of people have like technological people are talking about, like Elon Musk and stuff like that, talking about becoming a galactic species type of thing. I'm going to read some. See visible effect. Yeah, I agree. And You know, we always look for the plug on that. You know what I'm saying? Where does the rubber meet the road on that one? And I think I'm gonna have to get going here in a minute. It's a half hour. It's about 3 o'clock. I want to get some. I want to go sledding with the kids again. So I'm gonna be stopping this. But before, you know, like this whole spiritual practice thing, all these different forms, enlighten, chop wood, carry water, and then the day after enlightenment, you have this great enlightenment. It's like, boom, I'm enlightened. And then the day after, you have to chop wood and carry water because nothing changed. Life doesn't change because you're enlightened. Look, just because I'm standing in light doesn't change anything. You know, I'm just standing in light. What changes something is when you have a full stack of wood and a full thing of water, because then you can just sit in your house warm drinking water. You don't even have to leave and go outside. You don't have to encounter anything outside your little castle. That's the whole idea. And you can make that, you can extrapolate that into a larger and larger bubble where eventually it's your neighborhood and eventually it's your society and blah, blah, blah. We're definitely not at the society mark right now. I'd say we're more in the own little personal space bubble. But there is a place where all the spiritual meditating and stuff can go somewhere. There's a practical place that matters something. And I've said this before, and if you're here from our Alan Watts chat, you've heard me say this before. And if you're somebody that studied under me, then you've heard me say this before. Conception of perception. That's where it's at. That's where the steering wheel is. Over that, over your conception of perception, you have to be in what psychologists would refer to as the infantile state of mind. When you're in that state of mind, your brain has become very plastic, meaning you have a learning capability accentuated from where you are now. To save us some time, you know, mental plasticity, returning to the state of infancy, you have to think about kids are learning everything. They don't know anything. Every day, constantly, they're trying to relearn. That's why they don't want to go to sleep, because they don't want it all to go away. When they go to sleep, everything just kind of goes away. When they wake up, all of a sudden, they got to kind of relearn all this stuff over again. There's a bunch of stuff that they kind of forgot, and they have to relearn it. They don't have it imprinted yet in their memory systems. So if you can return to this state of mental plasticity, you can actually program your brain. So the first state, first level, awakening isn't even the starting line. Maybe awakening is like putting your shoes on. You know what I'm saying? Or like waking up. Maybe you haven't even gotten your shoes on yet or gotten to the race yet. Maybe your awakening is waking up. And you still got to get your shoes on. You still got to chop your wood. You still got to drive down to the race. And even at the race, you just woke up. You get the idea. There's something that this all goes to. And some people get lost. They get woken up. There's this huge high. You get higher in hell. All of a sudden, you know, you're one with the cosmos and stars and all of the hippie land and all of the cars. Woo, you know, you're one with everything. And there's a huge endorphin rush that you have because of this. And then it goes away. And then all of a sudden you just become kind of you again. And then, you know, it's like, and then we consider that the mystical state, right? And you can return to this mystical state, and it's just, like, or you can just keep on, you know, go back to work. And that's what a lot of people do. They go back to work. People just like kind of figure it out, like, oh, well, I just gotta go chop. I'll go chop wood and carry water now and do what my mom and dad told me, and they were right all along. Blah, blah, blah. You know, kind of have that like realization of what life is about, that they actually have to keep themselves alive. There isn't an eternal water slide sushi bar everywhere. You know, you're not going to find that anywhere. Actually, I've looked for a rainbow water slide sushi bar. Dude, if you find a rainbow water slide sushi bar, I've looked on so many different islands on this planet and I haven't found one yet. So if you find that, let me know. Aside from that, you get down to reality where you have to like kind of work yourself through things. You have to carry yourself through and put your own shoes on and cook your own food and blah. So people get lost in that. They forget about this whole spiritual practice and then they get lost in it. Well, maybe the starting line to the race is gaining the ability to return to the mental plasticity state. Now, when you're in the mental plasticity state, what that gives, well, let's just call it, because it's difficult for me to say, let's just call it developer mode. Okay, I like to call it developer mode because it really, if you've ever done any sort of programming, it's a lot like developer mode, where you kind of have your HDMI, your human machine interface, and you interface with the machine, and then you get to your OS system, and then you have these different, you're actually going to be working it then. But when then push F2 and return shift, that it actually, you can kind of program scripts in. If you know how to go into developer mode, you can make it so that you can push one button. It's like pushing 5 different buttons in a sequence, right? So you can actually program in, these are called, and we'll change this from computer programming language to modern neurology. You can program in heuristics into your brain. You can pack vast amounts of mental algorithm into single operation in this state. When you have this state of mind, when you're in developer mode, when you have infantile, very valuable for combat. Like if you're training for combat, it's extremely valuable, to where every time your opponent moves their left hand, like, every time they drop their left hand, you shoot in with your left leg and elbow up. You can program in moves so that when they do this, you automatically respond this way. It's very difficult to beat an opponent that can do that can reprogram their brain to do, once you achieve developer mode, once you can gain conception of your perceptions. And you do it through returning to mental plasticity. And you can return to mental plasticity through these yoga techniques. And that kind of gets down to that realization that we all had after the ego death, that we're just kind of all alone in the nothingness, and this whole everything is us. Yeah. Okay, so I'm cutting out. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what I can really do about that. I'm going to be getting better equipment. That's why I haven't been doing a whole lot of video feeds, because this is older cameras and older equipment, and it's not working very well. But yeah, my voice is getting a little rough. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It was great hanging out with you. I'm going to read some of your comments real quick before I go. Yeah, I got a 4-year-old son. You got a 4-year-old daughter. That's cool, Bean. I don't know if I understood that comment. I don't think it's healthy to be stuck in one emotional state. I think that it's healthy. I do an exercise where I kind of go through like an ego death. I kind of take myself through an ego death. And I found it's been beneficial for me. It's actually helped me maintain a certain sense of humbleness. So, but yeah, I hope I'm not despairing. Anyway, like in a general, that we're in is a good one. It feels like we're like on a good run. Some of the beaches are really trashed out, and that millions of people are seeing this stuff. So I think that that's going to motivate a lot of people to be interested in loving the world and loving themselves. And my wife's in the dental field, and that's one thing. I think a lot of people don't. How can you care that much about the oceans and stuff? Really, you're going to be half-hearted about it. So it really does all begin with the self. in a lot of different ways. I didn't care that much about doing hardly anything for anybody else until I think that I was in a state where I was loving myself. That's when I started getting more into where I could be a servant to other people. Uh, and I think that implies that you're all alone, screaming in a dark room. Maybe we're all alone because we're screaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you have that idea. Well, what if we stop screaming? Maybe it's of a creature, and maybe that's what our problem is. And of course, I'm watching my 4-year-old son throw a tantrum while I'm having this fantasy. So it's like he was throwing a fit because I didn't want to play with him. I think that's about the general idea of what the fit was about. I didn't want to play with him, and it was his time to go to bed, and he was just throwing a fit. And looking at the general immature state of myself, in seeing the general state of social interactions, I think that we're a pretty immature entity, like as a whole. Like if you took human beings as a creature, it's just like one thing. I think we're still pretty immature. I think we still got a lot to learn about interacting with each other. We're still having these wars over resources and political ideas. Kind of seems like nonsense. And maybe that's why we're all alone. Maybe that's why there's no opponent to dance with, because we're crazy kids screaming our head off that we don't want to take a nap. Well, we're supposed to take a nap. It's children are crazy, man. It's so funny sometimes what they're throwing a fit over. But I need to get something to drink. Thanks for tuning in. Blessings.